Hello, my name is Dr. Cherionna Menzam-Sills, and I wanted to just take a few minutes to introduce myself and the course that I'll be giving through the MA PhD program. What I'm calling the course is Shining Light on Prenatal Shadow, and it relates to my forthcoming book that's coming out on March the 4th, called The Prenatal Shadow. And so I'd like to introduce that concept and say a little bit about it and have a little taste of what we'll be doing in the course. But perhaps before we do that, we can also have a taste of something I always like to start things with and we'll do in the course, which is just to settle here together, just to be together. And if that's completely unfamiliar to you, that might just mean breathing for a moment. Just allowing yourself to be aware of the breath moving in and out of your body, however, wherever you're aware of that. Maybe along with that, there, or maybe easier for you is a sense of what I like to call ground, or the weight of our body, how our body meets what we're sitting on, feeling the places where our body makes contact with what we're sitting on, our seat, maybe our feet, our legs, how we connect to Mama Earth. I like to think of her always holding us in her lap. Can we take at least a moment to appreciate that holding and rest into it? She is our great mother, and we couldn't be here without her. And the breath we breathe is her breath. I invite you to just notice how it feels to consider that, to rest with that, to be with that. And this is already taking us into prenatal territory, because the prenate, the little one before birth, is also resting, hopefully resting, being in their mother. Little ones have an amazing ability to be. They're not busy thinking about things or planning what's next. Although they seem to, like a tree or a flower or any other part of nature, they know how to move into the next phase of their development. This is what I call our original embryological potential. And what this course is about is how we can obscure, or how that original potential can become obscured because of what we can call shadow. So first of all, what is shadow? You might be familiar with the term from psychology, which is where it comes from, was developed by Carl Jung, who saw shadow as an aspect of the unconscious mind. And what he realized is that aspects of ourselves that we deem unacceptable get pushed back into the unconscious. So we may not be aware of them in ourselves, though others may be aware of them in us, much to our annoyance. But that shadow is nonetheless there, and it tends to be acted out unconsciously until it's acknowledged, until the light is shone upon it and it is brought into consciousness. It seems to me, so first of all, I should just introduce myself a bit and say, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a primarily, I like to say, a compassionate somatic prenatal and birth therapist, which means that I am passionate about prenatal psychology, or the psychology of our experience before birth, and also perinatal psychology, the time around birth. And I work with people around their issues from that time. So it's not just working with babies or pregnant people. We've all been born, we've all been in the womb, we've all been through it. And we've all been profoundly influenced by that time before birth. Most often, those early prenatal influences are not acknowledged in our modern Western world. They're much more acknowledged, from my understanding, in indigenous worlds. But in our modern Western world, little ones, when they begin to talk, might try to talk about how it was in the womb, or even before conception, which is, is beyond what many of us can conceive of. But people have memories of that time, so there must be something. And little ones will talk about that. Little toddlers will talk about it, they'll draw it. And most often, their attempts to communicate what their experience was like are met with ridicule or not taken seriously. So compare it to if a toddler goes to the zoo with their mom, and the next day they draw a picture of the giraffe and show it to the mother, and the mother says, "Oh, that's the giraffe we saw yesterday with its long neck. Remember, we also saw the elephants with their big ears." So she is acknowledging the memory. She's reinforcing it. She's helping the little one put it into words so that it can become conscious, because memory before words develop, pre-verbal memory, is not explicit. It's not conscious the way we're conscious, and it needs help to become verbal. It's called implicit memory, meaning that it's not verbal, it's in the body and in the emotions. It's still there, it's memory, and very valid and very powerful, potent memory, especially when it's not verbalized. So the visit to the zoo is reinforced, brought into words, and can be conscious. If the same child draws a picture of something that happened in the womb, the mother is less likely to understand what it was. She might go, "Oh, that's pretty. Let's go play with this." Or if the child tries to talk about a very, very early experience that the mother isn't aware of or doesn't believe in, she might actually say, "Oh, that's ridiculous. That's silly. Don't ever talk about that. We'll do this instead." So little ones learn which experiences, which memories are valid according to the world they live in, the community that they're growing up in, and which are not. And those that aren't are relegated to shadow, which means they become not conscious. They're still stored as implicit memory, which means that they get acted out, often in not very helpful ways, but they are seeking to be recognized. So you might have seen little children enjoying going through a tunnel, the tunnels that children play with, that little ones play with. They're generally renegotiating their birth experience, where they like to push through things. They're finding that push, and it may be that they felt empowered at birth and they're finding again, reconnecting with the power of that experience. Or they may be trying to find it where it was taken away from them or somehow was difficult. So babies have experiences before birth as well. We're more likely to recognize experiences from birth, although unfortunately, usually it's more from the mother's perspective or the birth attendants, medical people's perspective. Oh, that was a difficult birth, or that was an easy birth. But rarely is the baby's experience considered. That's even more true prenatally. So babies are obviously present and aware, sentient beings. And, it still amazes me and troubles me every time I hear a parent. Maybe you're one of them, and so you can have compassion for yourself and forgive yourself if you want to feel bad about it. You don't need to feel bad about it. But it amazes me when parents who are waiting for their baby to be born say, "Oh, I'm going to become a parent," and that's when the baby's born. No, you're a parent right from the beginning. In fact, from the moment you decide to have a child, and hopefully it can happen that way rather than happening accidentally, you are a parent from that point on. And your baby depends on you. Your little one depends on you. You are an important aspect of their support system, the important aspect of their support system. But all of us in their community, their larger collective, their culture, the modern world, we're also part of their support system. So what are they coming into? What might they be experiencing? Little ones in the womb are preparing for life in their mother's world. That's a very intelligent thing to do. So they're very sensitive, for example, to if the mother is undergoing extreme or chronic stress. The little one's receptivity to stress, their stress processing system becomes extra sensitive. And they tend to, throughout life, have altered cortisol levels, the stress hormone, because they're being prepared, they're preparing themselves for a stressful world. And we all live in a very stressful world these days. So it seems to me that babies and pregnant mothers, families need more support than ever. They need layers of support. The little one is having experiences, though, where the mother is stressed or lacking support. She is likely to find it more difficult to celebrate the discovery of the baby, that the baby is there, for example. And she may really want a baby and have some ambivalence because she's so stressed or has so little support, or it's a bad time in her life. That's not the baby's fault. It's not her fault either. It's nobody's fault. So I'm not saying any of this in order to blame anyone. But if we can acknowledge the challenges, then we can provide the support that's needed or that was needed back then. So a baby who experiences not being celebrated at the time of discovery can feel rejected. That's terrifying for a little one who's completely dependent on their mother's welcome. We all need to be welcomed. Notice what happens inside you when I mention this. I notice I feel sad. I think it's partly from my own experience. And my mother, on the surface, really wanted another baby. But my feeling was she really didn't. She had enough to deal with. And I was just one more thing, and she also hated gaining weight. And guess what happens when you're pregnant? So she didn't hate me, but as a little one, I experienced that. And it took me 50 years to bond with her, in part because of that, with a lot of hard work on my part. It's possible. There's always hope. So we can look at all this a lot more in the course, but I wanted to give you a sense of what shadow could be. So that little one who experienced rejection at the time of discovery may go through life keeping themselves small, trying to not be seen for fear of being rejected again. Or they may be really obnoxiously out there so they don't have to feel the rejection that they expect. They may just feel like they're not worthy or lack confidence because of that early time. And of course, that can be reinforced as life goes on through childhood and later. And it can also be countered. So in the course, we'll also look at how to shine light on the shadow and how to heal, how to access what's also in shadow is what I call our original embryological potential. And that term comes from, I look at the teeny unicellular organism that we begin as after the sperm and the egg unite. And it develops into these complex bodies, that's incredible potential. Embryos, babies in the womb have incredible potential. And often that is also in shadow. So for example, the incredible fluidity of the embryo. We can play a little bit in the course with something that I also practice and teach was called continuum, which is a mindful movement practice that is about getting to know, inquiring into our fluid nature. Takes us naturally into embryonic states. So it might be a bit like this. Notice what happens in your body when you see me moving in this way. Maybe you want to do it. Embryos move more like that. They're made up of even more fluid than we are. And being fluid means they have incredible resilience. Something I think we can all use more of in these times. So I think that's all I'm going to say for now. And if I've piqued your curiosity, please come join us for the course. And I also invite you to check out my books. So my first pre and perinatal book is this one, Spirit into Form. And subtitle is Exploring Embryological Potential and Prenatal Psychology. And my new book, The Prenatal Shadow, is available for pre-order and it will be published March the 4th. You'll be hearing more about that in many ways, I imagine. So you can tell I'm excited about that birth. I'm still in the prenatal phases. There's, a few hoops to jump through. So I look forward to spending some time with you exploring this. And I want to thank Stephanie Mines, for organizing all this and inviting me to come back and teach another course. And see you soon. Thank you.